r/ask Reddit. What is something you can no longer enjoy due to a bad experience? Apple juice. Spent too much time in hospitals growing up and every meal was served with apple juice. Same. I used to love apple juice but hospitals just ruined it for me. I gotta have 2 more procedures this year and I hope they don't shove a pink cup of it in my face immediately after I wake up. Why don't they just stick with plain old water? Don't wanna risk ruining water for you as well though. Eating bananas. Me and my friend were at lunch and as he bit into his banana it crunched. He looked at it and the center of the banana was infected with a red crunchy fungus. This ruined bananas for me. Pretty sure it's just ruined bananas for me, too. Same. Orange Gatorade. That's my go-to flu or food poisoning drink. It ruins it for me outside of that. Yellow Gatorade is my health potion of choice. I enjoy just a beverage, especially when I'm really thirsty. You may not remember this, but Gatorade used to be saltier. They put less salt in and added more sugar. I used to love when I was kid buying a lemonade flavored Gatorade at the gas station. Glass bottle too. They still make lemonade Gatorade I think but it's a rare find. If you're ever bored, mix yellow Gatorade with the light blue one. It turns green and is quite tasty. I used to love chicken tikka. An ex-co-worker went through a period of not washing for several days at a time and the smell was really close to chicken tikka. The smell of chicken tikka now makes me feel sick. The only solution is to kill and eat your former co-worker. This is the way. Jumping on trampolines. Just because I tore my ACL 3 times at it, not at the same place. I first tore my ACL in 2nd grade at school, then 6th grade, right after the California wildfires. Then a few months ago, when I got home from lifting buckets. All of them was painful, but the last time I was able to walk after a week. Jesus Christ. Please stay the hell away from trampolines. Yes. Fake cherry smell. I can do cherry candies, but the air freshener type cherry scent triggers the worst visceral reaction. I start sweating, heart races, and I immediately start prepping to throw up. When I was 5 I had to have a tonsillectomy. It was in the early 90s and they knocked you out with gas. Because I was a kid, they let me pick the flavor of kids' masks. The nurse who prepped me for surgery probably thought I wouldn't remember but she smashed the mask over my nose and mouth and held me down while I struggled until the gas knocked me out. There have only been a few times where I've smelled that again and I react the same way every time. Banana for me. How traumatic. Bubble gum for me. Any pre-prepared food with any kind of shellfish. When I was 8 I had a bowl of cream of crab soup that didn't have a piece of shell removed. Had rectal bleeding and minor surgery for a small hole. Never gonna trust it again. After the first sentence, I expected to read that it wasn't fresh and gave you the runs. But this is much worse. Combine the two and you have sepsis. Hot dogs. 15-hour flight. 3 days of food poisoning. I cannot eat hot dogs or plain food under any circumstance. A hot dog on a plane has bad idea written all over it. Plain food is ducking disgusting. No food poisoning or anything. But that smells lingers with me for a day or two. Kills any desire to eat anything. George Meister. Had a really bad experience once. If I even just smell black licorice my mouth will start to salivate like I'm going to vomit Exorcist style everywhere. Yup, 2006 Jajabums. Are you guys my friends? Similar experience on this side around 2006. Can't do Jaeger anymore. Going out and having a drink alone. Got drugged. Almost died. Now I only drink if I'm at home. Holy duck, that's brutal. I'm sorry that happened to you. Same. Got assaulted because I was alone and apparently a girl I was seeing had a boyfriend. Domino's pizza. I got a mouthful of clumped hair when I bit into a slice. I hate hair in my food. It's one of my gross out factors that will kill my appetite. With that pizza, I brushed it off the best I could because I was starving and grabbed another slice. Mouthful of hair again. I had to pick long strands of hair out of my teeth. No more Domino's. It was probably an isolated incident. But now my brain equates Domino's with hairy pizza and I can't order from them anymore. It was probably an isolated incident, sadly. It isn't. I can't tell you how many times I have specifically told them to add extra hair. only to have them mix up the order and end up giving me some random person's hairless pizza. I hope you called back to complain. Watch any Godzilla movie. When I was 8 years young, my mother rented the movie Godzilla that I was waiting for months to see. She played the movie and leave the room. She went out to buy groceries. Turns out it wasn't Godzilla. It was hardcore porno movie that the renter misplaced, and I watched the first half confused because I thought at some point I was going to see Godzilla. Then my mother came back from the store and realized what happened. She went back to the movie store to storm it, I believe. Just think of the poor guy that went to the same video store to cop some beat off material. Gets all the way home and pops the tape into his VCR and Godzilla comes on. And that's how you get a Godzilla fetish. Roller coasters with loops but specially untamed at Canobie Lake Park. Went on it 3 years ago and leaned forward on the loop. The momentum caused me to hit my head on the shoulder harness and black out for a few seconds. The concussion after that was brutal. I remember going on the corkscrew coaster they had at Canobie when I was younger and getting my head bounced like a pinball between the overhead restraints. Still loved it though. When I was 15, I decided one night when I was bored and alone to eat at the French restaurant near my house. This was the first time I'd been to a proper restaurant without my parents, so I was sort of excited. Everything was going well until the waiter asked if I would like a bread roll with my entree. Being new to this sort of thing and not exactly flush with cash, I asked, "Is it free?" Well, it was like I called his grandma a horse because he got really angry and launched into a big speech, swinging his arms everywhere, about how nothing is free in life, blah blah blah. I finished my meal there, but I've never eaten at a French restaurant since. If invited out to one, I make excuses. You can't leave us hanging. Was it free? I'm guessing no. No, I had to pay for the bread roll. I can't remember if I even ordered one in the end. Eggo waffles. Ate them every morning before late elementary and middle school. I was never a morning person, so shoving frozen waffles covered in butter and maple syrup at 6 AM while horribly underslept was never enjoyable. And now I can't eat them because I flash back to the general feeling of dread from every morning. I can still feel the knots in my stomach. And now I can't eat them because I flash back to the general feeling of dread from every morning. I can still feel the knots in my stomach. That's why I don't like the smell of coffee. Makes me think of getting up both for school, as well as a terrible job I had for a while. Taco soup. This lady made it for us but found out later she has horrible cooking habits like cross-contaminating cooked chicken and shredding it on the same board you had it raw, or using long expired taco seasoning and who knows what else. I got food poisoning and puked it all up. The horrible smell, I can just think about and get nauseated. Thankfully I can still eat regular tacos, but taco seasoning outside of actual tacos I cannot do. To be fair, any type of seasoning that consists of just mixed herbs and spices won't go bad in the sense that it will make you ill. It's just the flavors diminish over time. I was gonna say, expired seasoning, haha. Chili. One night I ate it for dinner and later threw it up in bed. To this day I don't know my reasoning, but in my drowsy state I decided to just go back to sleep and I woke up laying in a mix of vomit, chunks of meat, and beans. Forbidden breakfast. Strawberry Pop-Tarts. That's the only thing we had besides MREs on an outpost in Afghanistan for a month. I can't look at one without feeling sick. But jalapeno cheese is still the shit. Smoking weed. I was 17. Smoking in my friend's room he was renting from a man named Juan Carlos, and all of a sudden a SWAT team came and busted down the door and looked around at a couple of white kids, us, and said, "None you look like Juan Carlos," then proceeded to empty my bag, and needless to say, I super high and freaked out. Ever since then, I get that same feeling when smoking weed. You don't look like a Juan Carlos. You look more like a Dunt 6669. This experience is what every anxious person thinks when they smoke weed. I can't believe it happened to you. Petting my cat. Just picked him up and accidentally touched the dried turd stuck to his ass. Now I don't want him on my bed edit. Here he is. I still absolutely adore him. I was kidding. It's your cat, bro. You got to overcome that shit. Go hold their litter turds until you have no more fear. I remember when mine swallowed some cotton thread. then towed a poop caravan around every part of my house during after poop crazies. He's still allowed everywhere. Maybe that's your solution. Put cat poop on everything and then it won't matter if he has poop on him. Playing the violin. I was in 6th grade and just started to learn the violin. My family didn't make much, but my mom saved some money to rent a violin for me. I go to the class and the teacher was under the impression that I knew the basics, which I didn't. I did take a class before this one, but I didn't learn much from it. Probably cause I was a crazy kid. So I try to tell the teacher that I have no idea where the notes on the violin are, but he just didn't get it. Then we get a quiz where we have to play the scale and one by one each student plays it and he remarks after each one, "Good job, A+. Now it's my turn." I tried my best but I couldn't do it. My teacher said, "Well, that was not good," and continued on. Needless to say, I joined choir the next day. That's awful. Cliff jumping. Bit part of my tongue off because I accidentally had my mouth open after realizing I was making a beeline towards a large rock. Thankfully I missed it by about 2 to 3 feet, but the nub of my tongue did not survive. Luckily it grew back because the chip was barely small enough to where it could heal. Extremely lucky things didn't end up worse for me that day, but you can rest assured I'm never doing that again. It sounds like biting your tongue is a relatively good injury considering what could have happened. Any type of food that looks like it should be soft or mushy. X. Mashed potatoes. Because too many times I've taken a bite and been met with something not soft or mushy hiding inside. Seriously, it makes my heart race just thinking about it. I feel this with meatballs or nuggets because I've found cartilage in them before. Now I have to mush them before attempting to eat because even cutting them up could yield tiny sized bits. One time I had Wendy's chicken sandwich while driving. Not safe, I know. Took the first bite and it was an entire mouthful of cartilage. I had to pull over. Pink Floyd. Which super crushes me? An abusive ex was super into them. I'll try again in a few years. Yeah, I used to listen to them in the peak of my substance abuse and I can't listen to them and other artists without it being a trigger. Cossex is ruined for me. One time I had a cop pull up next to the car. Can't come back from that one. Haha, I had that happen to me too. We just drove to a different parking lot after a pleasant conversation with the cop. I have some friends who, a few years back, were having sex in his car right when they got home and, upon finishing, saw her dad had pulled up next to them and was just starting to get out of the car. Apple cider. Drank too much once and threw up. Whenever I drank apple cider after that point it makes me feel nauseous as I can never forget that taste. Grim stuff. Same story, but vanilla vodka at prom. Luckily, most everyone agrees that vanilla vodka is shit, so doesn't impact me much. Whoppers. A few years ago Burger King came out with this spooky Whopper with a black bun that supposedly tasted like A1 sauce. I remember walking 6 blocks to the nearest Burger King after I just found out I got a new job because I wanted to celebrate. It seems weird, I know, but I was broke and Whoppers held a special place in my heart because they reminded me of some fun times when I was a kid and my mom used to sneak them when we went to the movies. Plus, it was something that sounded interesting. It was disgusting. I made it about halfway through when I felt the sudden urge to vomit. It did not taste like a Whopper. It did not taste like A1 sauce. The closest thing I could compare the flavor to is when I was a kid and was dared to bite into an eraser. I will say that the reported effect of that Whopper turning your poop green was very much real and pretty comical, but was not worth the disgusting taste. I only had like half of it, most of which I threw up, and it still did that. I didn't even have the entire thing, but it sort of ruined Whoppers for me because since then they give me an upset stomach, which sucks because I really liked them. In 1981, when I was 15, I was seduced by a man twice my age and had sex for the first time. He ducked me without using a condom. Why would you use a condom if you're having gay sex? And at the time, it was the greatest feeling I ever had. Until, only a few months later, there were stories about GRID, gay-related infectious disease, now AIDS. I convinced myself that I had to have contracted it, and was scared to death that I was going to die. I went so far into the closet I entered Narnia, and didn't have sex for another 10 years. Finally, a test became available, and I found out I was HIV. I was relieved, but I was still reticent to both coming out as a gay man and to having sex. Finally, when I went into Peace Corps, I decided this had to stop. I came out as being gay, and life changed for me. Yes, I did have a bad experience, but I now enjoy sex. But for 10 years of my life, I was scared to death from it. When I think back to my teens and compare it to now, though prejudice and discrimination still exists, it is amazing how different things are. It's amazing that anyone was able to come out when I remember what it was like back then. I took an art class in middle school that I really loved until a guy started pinning me against a sink in the supply room and groping me. I wasn't particularly skilled. It was just something I enjoyed until he ruined it. I'm sorry this happened. Are you alright now? It's things like this that infuriate me. Why would someone be a garbage human being and do this? Are they really that sad and know they're below trash enough to do this? Hope whoever groped you knows they're scum. Most of the Taco Bell menu when I mixed it with copious amounts of alcohol and later found it on my back porch. I'm glad my drunk ass never ordered anything I actually liked. Orange soda. When I was pregnant I had to do a glucose test. I needed to drink this orange drink. It tasted like straight orange syrup. It was the worst. Now anytime I taste orange soda it's all I can think of. I remember mine was like flat syrupy lemonade. I can't stand any cheap lemonade anymore because it was exactly like this. One of the better coffee shops in my town. I went there on a date with a guy in high school, then was assaulted by him in the parking lot. That's so ducked. I hope you're doing better now. The sea. I used to love swimming all day but one day I almost drowned when I was a kid. It was never the same afterwards. Walking. My leg had to be amputated. Go on. I can't play Overwatch anymore. If I try to, I just get really depressed and will probably start sobbing by the end of the night. RIP the closest friend I ever had. Carried me for 4 seasons. Best Winston main I've ever met. Also lost a close friend tank main. I still hop on just to play his hero once in a blue moon. It's tough. DM me if you need someone to talk to. One particular female name. I used to love it. Always thought I'd name my daughter this name if I had one. Then a woman with this name tried to start an affair with my, thankfully oblivious, husband. Sent him provocative photos under the guise of "Do you think guys like these types of photos from women?" Asked him what he liked in bed and how she just happened to love those same things. etc. It ruined the name for me. It makes me irrationally angry every time I hear that name now, which makes me even more mad because I loved the name for so long. Dating new people. Got sexually assaulted. Tried to have sex with a new person after and almost vomited and went home and cried despite the fact that there was consent. Thankfully, my now boyfriend is also one of my childhood friends and knows what happened to me. For whatever reason, I don't get the PTSD with him. Even getting a hug from men I don't know well makes me want to kill them. But with him, I feel safe and he's one of the few people that could hold me. Omelets. I ate one while somewhat nauseous as a 6-year-old. Immediately had to be sick. Now I can't even handle the scent of them. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.